think it's also a challenge for our law enforcement, and they've had quite a year themselves. And I think, I've read data about suicide rates and et cetera being up among law enforcement. So I just would be interested in your comments or your thoughts, Jason, on, the mental health impacts or aspects of this phenomenon that we're seeing.
I think there's two dimensions, and it's partly how we define mental health. And I think there's a very narrow definition of mental health, which encompasses post-traumatic stress disorder, right? It's legitimate, hardcore instability brought about by traumatic events. That is not the major driving factor, but it could be the match, right? Because if you have a group of 100 members of an unlawful militia hanging out, they all have weapons. They have to make a lot of decisions. What we saw in Kenosha was a ton of armed people on the street. And who failed to make the right decision? Well, of course, it's a 17-year-old boy, because he has no idea how the world works. And he's got some really screwed up ideas about how he might solve problems or what a gun means. So I don't think they're the driving factor, right? I think the bulk of what you'd see, so if there's 25% or so out of 15 to 20,000 militia members across the United States that are military, you're talking somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000. I would submit that the driving factor there is not mental health, but moral injury in a very diffuse sense, in that here are people who really weren't sure of purpose in life. They were told, hey, if you go overseas and you fight the good fight, that America will be behind you, will take care of you, and your life will have meaning, and forever you'll be a hero. And that's not what they found overseas. They found much more nuanced, complex situations, no easy victories, and they probably weren't the Jason Bourne operator that they aspired to be when they joined the military. But now they come home with that disappointment, and they still feel a nagging need to fulfill that. And so I think that's where the bulk of this comes from. It's this idea that, man, local politics is hard, and I really don't want to argue over potholes and tax rates, but I can stand on the street carrying a gun and people will think I'm a patriot.